Males who got sexually harassed, what's your story? I was at a bar that was my regular watering hole. And I was bent over the counter talking to the bartender. It was loud as duck and we needed to hear each other. I have hair halfway down my back. And was bent over with my shoulders rounded and half hidden under my hair. Some duck nut decided to grope me. Thinking I was a woman. He grabbed my ass and rammed his fingers into my taint. Right where one would expect to find a vag. He didn't. I was not amused. But he nearly shat himself when the woman he groped turned around and was a 6'3" very angry man. I let the bouncer know. And he kept an eye on him and ended up throwing him out later. Tired and stranded at Denver Airport as an 18-year-old trying to fly home from college. The airport was nearly completely empty and it was in the middle of the night. I was exhausted and fell asleep on a bench only to wake up to an airport janitor with his hand in my pants. I immediately sat up and pushed him away. He was smiling and saying something in an Eastern European accent. I left the area and went to the other side of the terminal. But I was so tired I fell asleep again and again, woke up to this same creep groping me. This was in the 1980s before ubiquitous cameras and there were no cops around. Not that I would have been able to tell. I was embarrassed and traumatized. I can still see his creepy smile and I was so angry and afraid. A messed up kid in my school raped another guy and said that the guy he raped him. Poor kid got expelled for being a victim. This whole thing went down at a party and someone said so and so was having sex in the person's living room, so we went to say go get a room. We heard someone saying stop it and we rushed over to break it up. An investigation went down in the school district and the cops got involved. That's when the chief of our PD said at school to drop it because the victim's parents paid off the detective that was doing the investigation. The whole thing was wasted. And no charges were pressed. I edited this BTW. The first 3 lines were original but I added the rest because I was getting the same questions, so I thought I would clear things up. Worked behind a bar. One woman in particular always inappropriate. Which grew louder the more she came in and the more she drank. Weirdly it was in front of her husband and daughter, also drunk. She was 50 plus. Daughter was 16-18. Escalated to physical grabbing, groping and at one point yanking my tie and pulling me toward her. Luckily the bar taps were too tall and the bar was too wide for her to get close enough to do anything. Also groped in a supermarket once. Didn't even see who did it. I don't think I'm even attractive. I used to work in a grocery store. One of the cashiers was openly into me. Whenever I had to go through her line, she would refuse to ring me up unless I'd agree to go on a date with her. Lots of customers and other staff laughing and egging her on. It's a weird type of powerlessness. Because of the switch genders and how everyone else was reacting. Confusingly humiliating. I was a manager at the time. And had to have a conversation with her manager about what was happening. It stopped soon after. Worked at a gas station. Customer asked if we had protein shakes. I said yes. He asked where. I walked him over there and he stuck his hand down my pants. It was on video and he got a $500 fine for sexual assault. My half sister attempted to grape me when I was 5 and she was 16. Told my parents about it and none of them gave a shit about it. I can literally not be in the same room as her. Whenever I see her, my brain instantly goes just run, but my legs refuse to move. A girl in my school just went around grabbing guys' junk and she never got in any trouble. It was not terribly serious but was uncomfortable. When I was 19 my boss, a woman in her 40s, was going through a pretty nasty divorce which had its roots in the fact that her husband had been having an affair with a much younger woman. On several occasions when she and I were the only people left in the office at the end of the day, she mentioned that she'd love to duck some young college guy because it would help her get over the trauma of her husband's cheating. It seemed pretty apparent that she was asking me if I wanted to go bang. It never seemed like a terribly serious issue though, because that was never coupled with any kind of comments about my job security. My interpretation was that she literally just wanted to have some hot sex with a young stud and I was the only young guy she knew. I always just kind of ignored the comments or made jokes about it and then got out of the office as quick as I could. The more serious thing was that I once got passed out drunk at a party. There was a girl at the party who had a crush on me, but I was in no way interested in her. I woke up in the middle of the night to her giving me a handy. I have pretty long hair, and this one time I was at a concert and someone smacked my ass from behind. I turned around and the guy saw my beard and turned red in face. Sorry. I thought you were a girl. How in the duck would me being a girl make this okay? I had a coworker always joke about wanting to give BJs in the back room. Well, one day in the back room she tried. Worst part, she is married with 2 kids. Had to go on a one-night Boy Scout camping trip when I was about 12. None of my friends were able to come, so I didn't have a tent mate, so they stuck me with this older guy. He was around 19 years old, but he was slow, so they let him stay in the Scouts and I didn't really know him. About an hour after lights out, I wake up to him spooning me with an erection and wandering hands. I kinda just froze hoping he would stop, but after a minute or so I pushed him away and bolted out of the tent. I ended up just pacing around outside the tent for hours till the sun came up. I really wish that hadn't been my first sexual experience. I left the Boy Scouts a few months later. 15/16 years old. Was in my first serious relationship. She was emotionally unstable. Manipulative. Won't go into details. But we had an argument and I left her in my bedroom. When I came back, she had used my razor to cut her wrists and wipe blood on my bed, saying if I didn't duck her right then and there, then I didn't love her and she had no reason to live anymore. She's healthy and happy now. And I have forgiven her for everything. We were young and she was sick. But unfortunately, forgiveness doesn't cure wounds. And it's ruined my sex drive. To the point where it's completely non-existent almost. Which causes issues. Namely, I want to have a normal healthy sex drive for a 22 years old man. Desperately. But can't seem to get excited anymore. Makes me feel inadequate as a male. So I lift weights instead. It's all a healing process. Bartending. It happens. All sorts of stories, but it comes with the territory, to an extent. I put a stop to it pretty quickly when it crosses a line and bring in security if it doesn't stop, and have the offender escorted out of the bar. Worst instance was at a private event where both of the hosts cornered me in the basement laundry room and tried to take off my clothes. They were grabbing my crotch the whole time and trying to pull out my junk. So, knowing they were both pretty drunk and I can decisively overpower either of them, I de-escalated the situation and defended myself. One of the hosts ended up in the laundry tub. His fat ass was stuck in there after I tossed him, and the other were locked into a storage room and barricaded the door with a tool car and shelving. I didn't get paid, but they also didn't have a bartender for the last 3 hours of their party. 2 situations. 1. I was 16 and working at my second job ever, pizza place, and the manager was 19. She made it clear that if I ever wanted to do anything other than wash pans and dishes, that I needed to service her. 2. I worked at Walmart back in 1991 and there was a much older, 40 plus, woman. I was 20 that would always find ways to rub against me and hint at wanting to give me experience. I had forgotten about both experiences until the MeToo thing hit on Twitter and women said men had no idea what it was like to be sexually intimidated in the workplace. Mine's a really long story. I had a stalker for 5 years. Who made me jumpy, and I'm not a easily intimidated guy. I was in an open relationship. My GF was showing a friend of hers my nudes. Wasn't uncommon of her to do. Gay friend of hers sees and makes a comment asking for my number. She thought it would be funny and gave it to him. He texted me and I just told him, hey man, I'm flattered. But I don't go that way. And assumed that would be the end of it. He spent the next 5 years texting, calling me every day. Sending me nudes. Offering me $500 minus $700 to just let him suck it, and would show up to my classes, my place of work, even my mom's house in another city. To try and find me, he used his security clearance as he was military. Every time I got a new phone number, he would have it within a week. Every time I moved he'd show up at my new apartment to welcome me. He was also 6 feet 8 inches and jacked to the gills. Very intimidating guy to have knocking on your door at 2 AM because you said you were going out of town this weekend. I didn't know what to do. I didn't think anyone would take me seriously as I didn't feel I was nearly attractive enough to warrant a stalker. It wasn't until I started dating someone seriously and told him I was going to get the cops involved that he stopped. I was raised entirely by women and was already pretty sympathetic. But that experience really opened my eyes to what some women go through. I got a ride from a random guy. He started touching my chest and offered me some money to have sex with him. Then he offered me a job. I asked him to stop and got off at the next town. But it was really awkward. I did get somewhat happy in a way. Because I'm handsome enough to someone offer some money to duck me, I had some issues with my appearance. But now I know that the guy was just probably horny AF. I was working as a CNA, certified nursing assistant, in a medically approved daycare for children 2WKS 12 years old. These kids had severe physical and mental disabilities. I worked alongside 15 females. All nurses. In what should have been the most professional and safe work environment. I quickly learned that some women can be just as horny and disgusting as guys can be. Walking into work each day I had walked by every nurse station and would get catcalled every day. Every damn day. At first it was awesome. I mean, what guy doesn't fantasize about a group of women all over him? But it quickly grew not only irritating, but grew more and more offensive and over the top. It started off with, oh yay, here he comes. Let's see what he's wearing today. Or, he's so cute I just wanna pinch that ass. I genuinely thought it was funny at first until one day as I walked in. One particularly gruff nurse said, I wanna see that big dick. For whatever reason. I was seriously offended deep down and told them all as such. It stopped after that, but damn. Used to get groped on a regular basis. I worked in a bar which hosted hen and stag parties, so happened pretty much weekly. Just smile politely. Say thank you and please don't do that. Then carry on with your day. Back in high school, 3 of my female friends decided to try to remove my Zubaz, zebra stripe sweat pants. They piled on me and tried to keep my arms pinned while pulling down my pants. I managed to get one arm free and spanked the one pulling down my pants hard enough to leave a hand-shaped welt and discourage further assault. The dude I was doing it with slid off the condom without my consent. I was on a streetcar tram. When I got on there was still plenty of seats. So I sat down. A couple of stops passed and all the seats were taken. I saw an older woman without a seat struggling. So I offered her my seat, which she kindly took. Her stop was before mine and she had to pass me, still standing, to get off. Instead of just passing me, she stopped, made eye contact, winked and grabbed my private parts. It only lasted a few seconds and then she got off the streetcar. I was literally frozen in disbelief and didn't really react to it at all. So being the only gay person in my year in a posh private school, I often get a lot of harassment bullying for just being gay. One time I was mid-changing in the changing rooms and some boys pinned me against a wall and one started dry humping my ass. I was only in boxers. It lasted for about a minute with all the boys laughing and jeering until I broke free. I now have to change in the disabled toilets. Most of 8th grade. 2 girls would take the same bus as me. One day, I wore shorts. And for some reason they wanted to touch my leg hair. Weird. But I didn't stop them. Kept doing it every day. Slowly grabbing closer to my crotch. Started trying to stop them. Told them I wanted them to stop. They didn't. Pushes their hands away when they tried. They kept trying. Smacking their hands when they tried. Never stopped. Went to the school about it. Nearly got kicked out for hitting another student. Tried talking to cops. The officer I spoke to was one of their uncles. Told to me enjoy it. Fast forward to 2017. And the MeToo movement. I dared to mention that 2 girls tried to grab my crotch. Got harassed off most social media for it. I don't make a huge deal out of it, but I get groped by girls pretty frequently in crowded bars. It's never anything dramatic, but my arms or as will get grabbed while I'm trying to walk through. It's just so weird to me, because I'd never grab some unknown girls as, so it blows my mind how comfortable they feel doing it to me. I honestly just laugh at the ridiculousness of it, because nobody would give a shit if I complained.